It confirms there are multiple ongoing investigations into illegal Chinese marijuana growers in Maine. Here is what she said during a congressional budget hearing on Wednesday.
Regarding the Chinese marijuana growers, one of the first things I did was meet with Director Patel about that. I met with DEA about that and ATF about that because it all goes together. As we discussed, we are looking at that closely, and we will continue to fight that and research that. And that was something else that I learned about in Maine from my very first meeting with you, but we have had multiple discussions about it, and there are active, ongoing investigations regarding that issue.
And joining us now to discuss is Jimmy Quinn, National Security Correspondent of National Review. So, Jimmy, thank you very much for joining us. As you heard, Pam Bondi confirmed there are multiple ongoing investigations into illegal Chinese marijuana growers in Maine. So these are active investigations. So, Jimmy, what do we know so far about this growing operation?
So there are a couple of ways to look at it. At the most basic level, it's an illegal drug operation, and for that reason, it should be prosecuted and people should be brought to justice. There are concerns about human trafficking, about the labor conditions in these grow houses, where people who illegally came to the United States are being put to work in potentially unsafe and unsanitary conditions. It's a blight on local communities and the neighborhoods in which these operations have been exposed so far. The second way to look at it is the nexus with the Chinese Communist Party. These illegal grow operations are part of transnational Chinese criminal organizations that are in an alliance with Beijing. And Beijing basically turns a blind eye to these groups' overseas operations, and it leverages them to conduct all sorts of criminal activities in the West and in other countries. This sort of alliance between transnational crime and the Chinese regime has been well established, and it's something that's been documented by a range of outlets across the ideological spectrum, including ProPublica, the Daily Caller, and the Maine Wire, obviously in Maine. So it's a massive problem on multiple levels, and it's really significant that the AG is confronting this.
And Jimmy, if you could, can you go into more detail about the negative impacts this is actually having on real people?
Yeah, of course. I mean, when you have a grow farm in a community that's siphoning off resources and electricity and bringing people illegally to the United States where they're working in these horrific conditions, that's obviously going to be a drag on towns in Maine and Oklahoma and other states where these operations have been found. But the other problem is that many of these transnational criminal organizations actually have been linked by those same media outlets I mentioned earlier to the CCP's political influence networks, to what is called the United Front, which is the sort of lifeblood of the party's influence within China and also overseas. And in fact, there have been ties between these United Front organizations involved in the marijuana grow operations and the illegal Chinese police station in New York. That was a big report, I believe, last year by ProPublica. Chinese diplomats have actually gone out, reportedly, to visit these locations. So China's embassy in the United States is, at least aware of this and probably involved in ways that the public isn't, aware yet. The extent of these activities and the direct links to the Chinese party state is something that we're going to learn a lot more about as the FBI and the DOJ continues to investigate.
And in your view, what is the level of damage being done right now? I mean, should people be worried?
Absolutely. And I mean, the other thing is that many of these transnational criminal organizations are allegedly involved in fentanyl trafficking. So they're ravaging communities with the help of the Chinese government. This is the same regime in Beijing that basically provided export subsidies, according to a congressional committee investigation, for chemical companies that manufacture fentanyl precursors. So the Chinese government was subsidizing and incentivizing the export of these chemicals that people use to create drugs that have killed countless tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of Americans. And these illegal grow operations are part of the financing and money laundering networks that sustain that sort of drug trafficking.
Okay, so many points to talk through, but since we're on the topic of fentanyl, maybe I'll ask you, China says it has taken a series of actions in the past week to try to curb fentanyl production. Beijing here trying to placate the U.S., perhaps after facing a tariff back and forth over the issue. What are your thoughts on that? How trustworthy is this news of the actions from Beijing?
I think when it comes to what the Chinese Communist Party is doing, the idea should be to distrust anything they say and to take preventive measures to combat that sort of activity, even if they say that they're going to stop exporting these precursors. Fundamentally, the Chinese don't believe that they have any obligation to prevent the export of these chemicals that have killed so many countless Americans. The Chinese government is directly responsible for these deaths. And they've played this game before where they've told the US government that they're going to crack down on the export of fentanyl, on the export of the precursor chemicals, and it's continued. So it's basically like Groundhog Day. And each time they do this, subsequently, we learn about a new policy to facilitate the export of fentanyl to the United States. So it's not even distrust but verify. It's distrust and build a regime to defend against these malign actions. And I think that's what the Trump administration has started to do by bringing these law enforcement actions and criminal investigations, and also closing the border and making sure that the precursor chemicals that are shipped to Mexico and transformed into fentanyl pills and then shipped across the border are not able to come up here anymore.
Okay, I'll just ask you one more thing because we're running out of time here. You mentioned the term United Front earlier. What is the ultimate goal of that, and what is the solution?
So the goal of the CCP's United Front is to basically create a network, both in China and wherever the Chinese Communist Party wants to exert its authority. So anywhere on earth, where people who aren't part of the party are actively doing its bidding and are involved in a sort of fake civil society controlled by Beijing, where Beijing's rules are the standard. Right. And that's what we saw with this Chinese police station case 2 years ago, where the party was trying to exert its version of the law overseas. And it was actively hunting dissidents through this secret outpost in New York. And that was connected to the United Front. It was a community group that ran it that had ties to United Front organizations back in China. And very interestingly, this ProPublica report that I referenced earlier tied the illegal Chinese police outpost to the illegal grow operations in Oklahoma. So it's this very nebulous network of different actors involved in various activities, but it's a well-oiled political machine that emanates from Beijing and entraps anyone caught in its web.
Well, okay, Jimmy, great talking to you today. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.